Soft inhale, gentle exhale. Before we begin, find a quiet, comfortable place. Let your body soften. Let your thoughts drift, like leaves floating down a slow, silver river. The world around you is still now. You are safe, you are calm, and you are here. As you listen, feel the rhythm of your breath in and out. Let it slow. Each breath becomes a wave, washing gently across the shore of your mind. Each sound, each word, moves softly, guiding you deeper and deeper into rest. Now our story tonight begins in ancient Japan, in a time before the samurai, before the great castles in shimmering armor, when the land was young, and the fields of rice glowed like emerald glass beneath the morning sun. Imagine it with me. The air is cool and filled with the scent of fresh rain. Tiny droplets cling to green blades of rice. A soft breeze passes through the valley, carrying the faint rustle of bamboo leaves. In the distance, mountains rise like silent guardians, cloaked in mist, timeless, watching over everything below. Here, among humble farmers and quiet villages, the first seeds of the samurai spirit were planted, not with swords, but with patience, duty, and devotion to the land. You can hear it, can't you? The slow splash of wooden sandals through flooded fields, the hum of insects in the tall grass, the laughter of children chasing dragonflies under the sun. Centuria Sago Japan was divided, small provinces ruled by noble families known as clans. Each clan protected its lands and its people, and in times of danger, the farmers would take up spears made of wood, sharpened at the tip, not for conquest, but for survival. The early samurai were born from these protectors. They were not yet legends. They were simply men and women who stood between their villages and the chaos beyond. Their code was not yet written, but their hearts already understood the rhythm of honor. Imagine the flicker of firelight in a wooden home, the sound of rain tapping gently on the roof. A young warrior sharpens his blade by the hearth, the light reflecting softly on his face. His hands are steady, his eyes calm. Outside, the night hums, with crickets. Inside, the promise of dawn glows in the embers. He's not fighting for glory. He fights for something quieter. The safety of his family, the peace of his land, the harmony of his soul. As you breathe, imagine the warmth of that fire. Feel it on your skin, the crackle and pop of dry wood. Hear the rain beyond the walls, gentle and constant. Let that rhythm merge with your own heartbeat. Slow. Peaceful, steady. Time passes, softly, like mist over the valley. Generations come and go. The clans grow stronger, some ruled by wise lords, others by those who hunger for power. The warrior's way evolves. Swords replace wooden spears, horses thunder across green plains, and the quiet protectors become something more, a class of noble warriors bound by duty, loyalty, and grace. They are now called samurai, the ones who serve. But before they master war, they must master themselves. Each morning, as the sun rises through the mountain haze, a samurai kneels before a small shrine, his sword resting beside him. He breathes deeply, feeling the silence of dawn, listening to the stillness between the wind and the world. He knows that true strength is not in striking first, but in standing firm, calm as stone, even when storms rage within. You can feel that peace now, can't you? The same ancient calm that guided those warriors long ago. Let it drift into you, into your shoulders, your arms, your chest, each muscle softening, each thought dissolving into stillness. The samurai learned from nature, from the falling leaf. They learn surrender. From Tiaribur, they learn flow. From the mountain, they learn patience. Every moment, every movement is a lesson. Every breath, a prayer. Listen. In your mind's ear, you can hear the clang of a distant training ground, the ringing echo of steel meeting steel. Yet even that sound is not violent. It is measured, deliberate, like a heartbeat of discipline. When night returns and lanterns flicker through the village, the samurai remove their armor. wash their hands in cold water, and bow to the moonlight. Their blades gleam like silver serpents in the dim glow, and once again they remember who they are, not destroyers, but guardians. Outside, the fields whisper softly in the wind. The frogs sing in the paddies, and the stars, the stars scatter across the sky like grains of rice spilled by the gods. You can see it, can't you? The endless night sky above ancient Japan, the mountains sleeping beneath the moon, the small fires flickering in the valleys below, and somewhere among them a young samurai drifts to sleep, his sword by his side, his spirit at peace. Let that peace become yours now. Let it settle deep within your breathing, in the soft rhythm of your heart. For the story of the samurai is not just of war, it is the story of balance, between chaos and calm, between strength and stillness, between duty and serenity. Tonight, as you rest, you carry that same quiet strength. The strength to be gentle, the strength to be still, the strength to listen to the silence between each breath. Take another slow breath. In through your nose, out through your lips. The air feels warm now, like the fading glow of sunset brushing across your skin. Outside, the crickets begin their soft, steady song. The same song sung 1,000 years ago, beneath the same quiet Japanese moon. You are still by the hearth, still safe, still drifting gently deeper into the folds of time. Our story continues. The world is changing. Centuries have passed since those first protectors stood watch over their villages. Now, Japan's lands are ruled by noble families called clans Atira, the Manamato, and others whose banners flutter proudly in the wind. The samurai, once humble guardians, have become the steel backbone of these rising powers. Imagine their armor layers of lacquered plates, painted black and red, bound by cords woven in silk. Each warrior moves with grace, the sound of his step soft against the grass, his sword resting at his side like a sleeping spirit. Listen to the faint creak of the armor, the whisper of the wind across the plains, and the distant cry of a hawk circling the sky. The world of the samurai is a world of stillness before the storm. They train in secret groves, their wooden swords striking the air in rhythmic motion. 1, 2, 3. Each swing a meditation, each pause a prayer. You can almost see the scene. The first light of dawn spilling over a misty field, a row of young samurai standing tall, their breath visible in the cool air. Warriors bow to one another before they fight, a final gesture of respect in a world balanced between life and death. Steel meets steel. The sound rings like a bell across the valley. The earth trembles under the gallop of horses, and above it all, the sky remains vast, endless, watching. But even in the heart of battle, the samurai carry silence inside them. The Genpei War began a long, bitter struggle that would decide the fate of Japan. Imagine the coastlines alight with lanterns, ships rocking gently in the waves, and samurai standing on deck beneath starlit skies. They speak softly to one another, their voices lost to the wind. Some pray, some smile, some simply close their eyes, feeling the salt air against their skin. ready for whatever dawn may bring. Far inland, villages grow quiet. Fathers kiss their children goodbye. Mothers light candles and bow before shrines. They whisper the names of their sons, sending them strength, sending them home through the silence of their prayers. Take a slow, deep breath. Let your shoulders soften. Let your jaw unclench. Let the space behind your eyes grow quiet. The night has deepened. You are still by the hearth, the world dim and gentle around you. Outside, the wind sighs through the trees a voice. Older than memory, the embers glow softly, and their warmth hums across your skin. Our story drifts onward, and the flames of war give way to the ashes of change. The Genpei War has ended. The proud Tira clan has fallen their banners, lost to the waves. Their warriors gone to legend. And from that silence, a new leader rises. His name is Minamoto. You can imagine him now tall, calm, his eyes as deep as still water. A man carved by patience and shadow. He does not speak often, but when he does, his words carry the weight of mountains. He does not rule from the emperor's glittering palace in Kyoto, but from a distant place Kamakura, a coastal town nestled between the sea and the hills. There, the air smells of pine and salt. Waves crash gently against the shore, a steady rhythm, like a heartbeat beneath the earth. You can hear it now, can't you? That endless ocean breathing in and out. A lullaby from another age. Yoritomo stands upon the cliffs, the sea wind tugging at his robes, and he gazes out toward the horizon. He has seen too much war, too much blood spilled for pride. He dreams of a new Japan. Japan ruled not by the emperor's courtiers, but by the discipline of the samurai. He closes his eyes, and in that moment, the first shadow of the shogunate is born. Far below, the village stirs with the rhythm of morning. Fishermen call to one another, their voices soft over the water. The smell of cooking rice rises through the mist. A bell rings in the distance. Monk beginning his prayers. The world feels balanced, peaceful. But beneath the calm, Yoritomo knows peace must be protected as fiercely as victory itself. So he gathers his generals, his loyal samurai, those who survived the chaos of the Genpei War. Around a low wooden table, they speak in hushed tones. Maps are spread before them, candles flickering, the sound of rain drumming softly against the paper walls. Yoritomo's voice is quiet. Japan must have order, he says. The sword shall defend, not dominate. The warrior shall serve justice, not vanity. And those words become law, the foundation of the Kamakura, the first samurai government in Japan. Imagine that world now, simple wooden houses surrounded by fields of green, temples hidden among cedar trees, monks chanting softly as smoke curls from incense. The samurai ride through narrow paths, their armor gleaming faintly beneath the morning sun. They are guardians, now not conquerors, but stewards of peace. You can feel the stillness of their discipline. You can almost hear the soft clink of their swords as they move. No chaos, no haste, only focus. And in their quiet devotion, the samurai begin to shape something new, a society bound by honor, loyalty, and balance. But even in peace, the human heart is a restless tide. Some warriors remember the thrill of battle. Some lords crave more land, more power. And Yoritomo, wise as he is, feels the weight of leadership pressing against his soul. At night, when the moon spills silver over Kamakura, he walks alone by the sea. His footsteps leave shallow prints in the wet sand, quickly erased by the waves. He listens to the water, to the wind, to the silence between them. He knows that everything, no matter how strong, is impermanent. The tide rises, and the tide falls. Empires, too, follow that rhythm. Still, he does not waver. He builds shrines, strengthens laws, and trains new generations of samurai. They learn not only the way of the sword, but the way of the heart. They study poetry, calligraphy, philosophy, and the teachings of Zen. For the true samurai must master the self before mastering the blade. Close your eyes and imagine a young warrior in that time kneeling in a quiet garden at dawn. Bamboo sways gently in the breeze. The pond reflects a soft pink sky. He holds his sword upright before him, the blade catching the light like water. He breathes and waits. A single drop of dew falls from a leaf, and its sound, so small, is everything. That is the essence of Bushido. To find harmony in every motion, to be present even in silence. And as the young samurai sits beneath the trees, you, too, can feel that serenity. Your breath is steady, your mind clear, the world distant, yet beautifully near. The years flow gently on. Kamakura becomes a symbol of order. The samurai stand tall across the land, their loyalty a thread holding the nation together. But the gods, as always, watch with quiet amusement. For in the distance, beyond the sea, a storm is forming, not of weather, but of destiny. Soon, foreign winds will blow across Japan's, carrying strange banners in unfamiliar tongues, and the samurai will once again be tested, not by rebellion, but by the unknown. For now, though, the night is still. The fire beside you has dimmed to glowing coals. Their light dances softly on the floor, like the flicker of memory itself. You rest there safe within the story's warmth, as the waves of time lap gently against your dreams. The world of the samurai sleeps for tonight. Imagine the sea off the coast of Kamakura, whispering softly against the shore. It's the late 1200s. Japan is a land of quiet balance, governed by the samurai order. The fields are green, the temples serene, but across the water, something is stirring. In the vast Mongol Empire, a powerful ruler named Kublai Khan has his eyes on this island nation. His armies stretch from China to Persia, a force of thunder and iron. He believes all lands must bow to him, including this small kingdom guarded by its mysterious warriors. Picture his messengers riding across endless plains, through storms and silence, to deliver his ultimatum: submit or be destroyed. When the scroll arrives in Japan, the shogunate listens in silence. The hall is dimly lit by paper lanterns, the air thick with the scent of incense. A samurai kneels before the shogun, his hand resting on the hilt of his sword. His voice is soft but firm. Japan bows to no one. As he speaks, the rain begins to fall. A gentle sound at first, then steady, as if the heavens themselves are applauding. Years pass. The Mongols prepare their fleet, a vast armada of ships, their sails dark against the dawn. The sea groans beneath their weight as war drums echo across the coast of Korea. Soon, the horizon before Japan fills with hundreds upon hundreds of ships, each carrying soldiers hardened by conquests. Now, picture the shores of Hakata Bay. The samurai stand waiting, they are Feiyu. But their spirits burn as bright as the morning sun. Their black lacquered armor glints, their banners flutter like ravens against the mist. They listen to the slow roll of the tide, a profound stillness, holding the weight of a nation's fate. Can you hear it? The hush before the storm. The Mongols land. Their drums thunder. Their arrows darken the sky. But the samurai did not flinch. They charge, their cries rising like the wind through bamboo, a sound sharp and pure. Clash after clash, blade against shield, honor against overwhelming numbers. The battle rages 4 days. The samurai fight with incredible bravery, but the enemy's strength seems endless. Then, the sky begins to change. The wind shifts from a whisper to a wild, spiraling howl. Clouds gather thick and fast, turning day into dusk. The sea begins to roar, waves rising like walls of glass. The Mongol ships are tossed violently, their sails tearing, their masts snapping like twigs. Lightning flashes across the water, illuminating thousands of terrified faces. A storm descends from the heavens, fierce and relentless. Divine. The Japanese would later call it kamikaze, the divine wind. A gift from the gods themselves. When morning comes, the sky is clear, the ocean calm again. The beaches are littered with the wreckage of ships. The waves gently carry away what remains of the invaders. The samurai stand in silence, their swords sheathed, their faces touched by the golden light of dawn. They know this victory is not theirs alone. It belongs to something greater, to the spirit of the land, to the unseen forces that guard their home. Close your eyes for a moment. Imagine that sea after the storm. The air smells of salt and rain. Seabirds cry in the distance. The wind is no longer a fury, but a gentle sigh. In that peace, the samurai bow their heads in gratitude. Years later, Kublai Khan would send another fleet, even larger, determined to conquer Japan. But once again, the divine wind returned, and once again, the invaders were swept away. For generations, the people of Japan would remember these storms not as mere accidents, but as proof that their islands were blessed, watched over by unseen hands. The shogunate's faith grew stronger. Temples were built to honor the gods. For the samurai, now protectors of both land and spirit, their duty deepened. To fight bravely, to live honorably, to die with grace. As the Mongol threat faded, Japan turned inward once more. The seas became calm, the fields bloomed with rice, and the temples echoed with chants of peace. But even peace carries its own shadow. In every heart, the memory of thunder lingers. For now, though, as stars rise over the coast and the tide returns to its gentle rhythm, the world breathes softly. The samurai return to their homes, their armor laid aside. Children sleep under paper lamps, and the scent of cedar smoke drifts through the air. Somewhere, in a quiet temple by the sea, a monk strikes a bell. A single note, clear and long, carries through the night. It echoes in your mind, too soft, distant, fading into silence. You are there, drifting between centuries, feeling the weight of peace after the storm. Your breathing slows, your body feels light. Your thoughts are as quiet as falling petals. The divine wind has passed, and the night is calm again. The great storms of the kamikaze winds had saved Japan from invasion. But in their wake, the nation entered a new age of reflection. The sword had defended the land, and now the soul sought meaning. It was the 1300s. The shogunate still stood, but its strength was fading, like sunlight thinning through clouds. New lords and new families rose and fell in waves of ambition, and among them, one clan would shape the spirit of the samurai for centuries to come. Their rule began not through outright war, but through quiet rebellion. They were born of the same samurai blood that once knelt before the Mina. But the world had changed. The people craved not only order, but also beauty, a harmony between power and peace. In the city of Kyoto, temples rose from the ashes of war. Gardens bloomed where battlefields had once burned. And for the first time, the samurai began to see art and meditation as a reflection of their discipline. Imagine one of those gardens now, a pond glimmering beneath pale sunlight, raked sand forming waves that never move, a single stone placed with perfect care, the sound of a bamboo water fountain tapping, over and over, a rhythm that quiets the heart. The samurai would kneel there, their armor set aside, their swords resting nearby. They would watch the ripples in the water, listen to the sigh of wind through the pines, and let their minds grow still. In that stillness, they found a new kind of wisdom. The teachings of Zen Buddhism had arrived from China years before, but now, in this age, they took deep root. The samurai embraced them, finding in Zen a mirror to their code. Discipline, focus, the acceptance of death as part of life, the mastery of the self through silence. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine that silence, the air cool on your skin, the faint scent of incense curling upward, a monk's bell echoing once, then fading into forever. That is where the samurai's soul began to transform. The sword was still sacred, but so was the brush, so was the poem, the garden, the quiet moment between breaths. Some warriors became poets, others became painters or tea masters. Even the simple act of pouring water into a cup became a form of meditation, a way to express grace through absolute control. Every motion mattered. Every sound, every pause was deliberate and pure. In the heart of Kyoto, under the guidance of the Ashikaga shoguns, the Golden Pavilion, Kinkakuji, was built. It was a temple of breathtaking beauty, its walls covered in gold leaf, reflecting sunlight over the still pond below. Visitors said it looked like a dream rising from the water, half real, half illusion. The samurai came to walk its grounds, to breathe in its serenity, to remember that true strength was not found just in conquest, but in control. Listen now to the gentle lapping of that temple's pond. Imagine koi fish drifting beneath the golden reflection, leaves falling from cherry trees, soft as whispers on the water's surface. Can you feel that calm spreading through you? That perfect balance between beauty and discipline? That is the essence of *wa, *gash. Harmony, the guiding breath of Japan itself. The samurai's armor gleamed still, but inside their hearts, a softer light grew, a light that valued peace as deeply as it valued battle. They began to write poems before a fight. Simple, fleeting verses, capturing the truth of haiku were born in this era, each one a tiny universe of thought. Listen to this one, whispered through centuries. A sword in the donut's reflection fades in mist. Peace before the storm. Even as conflicts returned, as ambitious lords began to fight once more for control, the samurai carried Zen's stillness within them. For even in chaos, they had learned to see beauty. In this way, the warrior and the artist became one. The sword stroke and the brush stroke were both passed to perfection, both demanding discipline, both ending in a profound silence. You can sense that rhythm now, can't you? The rise and fall of history, like your own breath, steady, patient, eternal. And as the Ashikaga ruled from Kyoto, the samurai world expanded. Castles grew larger, villages became towns, and art and ceremony spread throughout the land. But peace is fragile, like a single petal carried by the wind. It cannot last forever. Beyond the temples and gardens, in distant provinces, new warlords began to rise, men whose ambition burned hotter than their devotion. They looked upon Kyoto not with reverence, but with hunger. The time of quiet reflection would soon give way to the roar of fire and steel once again. But before that storm returns, we rest here, in this moment between worlds. Listen once more to the soft tap of the bamboo fountain, the faint wind through the cedars, the sound of your own breath slow, deep, serene. The samurai, too, once sat as you do now, their eyes closed, their hearts calm, their minds balanced on the very edge of eternity. Peace, ... before the storm. Have you ever wondered what it feels like to live in an age where the world is tearing itself apart, where every sunrise could be your last, and the only law is the sharp edge of a sword? Let's travel back in time, to 15th century Japan. The peace of the Ashikaga shogunate, which had lasted 4 generations, was as fragile as a paper lantern glowing in a storm. By the late 1400s, that lantern began to tear. All it took was one spark, a bitter quarrel over who would be the next shogun to ignite a century of absolute chaos. This era would become known as the Sengoku Gidai, the Age of the Warring States. It was a time when Japan became a land of fire and ambition. The country fractured into dozens of provinces, each ruled by a different warlord, a daimyo, all vying for power. The sword became the law. Imagine the sky of that era, cold, gray dawn breaking over misty fields, armored men moving like shadows across the land. Their banners, their sushimono, fluttered in the wind, each bearing a clan's crest. These were the proud symbols of families rising and falling like waves in a violent sea. The samurai, Once the noble guardians of a distant court were transformed. They became commanders, ruthless strategists, and kings of their own domains. Their loyalty was no longer to a single, weakened shogun, but to whoever could protect their people, feed their villages, and offer them the honor found only in victory. War, which had once been a rare, ritualized affair, became a constant, brutal reality. Battles raged across the islands and valleys thick with fog, in dense forests, echoing with the cries of men, and before the towering walls of wooden castles. And yet, even in this relentless chaos, there was a strange, stark beauty. You could find it in the iron discipline of the warriors, in the code of honor they lived and died by, in that breathtaking moment just before the clash of blades. Close your eyes for a second and just listen. Can you hear the whisper of lacquered armor plates brushing together? The taut creak of Yumi bows being drawn? The rhythmic, controlled breath of warriors waiting for the signal? And then, a profound silence. A silence so deep, you could almost feel the heartbeat of the earth itself. Into that silence, the war horn would sound, a single, low note that trembled through the air, calling thousands of men toward their destiny. Among the countless ambitious warlords clawing for supremacy, one name began to echo louder than all the rest. Oda Nobunaga. He was unlike anyone who had come before him. He was ambitious beyond measure, utterly ruthless in his strategy, and yet driven by a revolutionary vision that burned like 1,000 suns. Where other daimyo clung to the old ways, the old traditions, Nobunaga sought to shatter the world and reshape it in his image. He rose from the modest province of Owari, a place of limited strength, a mere shadow among the great powers of the time like the Takeda or the Wasugi clans. But his mind was a weapon sharper than any katana. He united his lands through a combination of brilliant cunning and blistering speed, and when his enemies underestimated him, he struck like lightning from a clear sky. His most legendary victory, the clash at Okayazama, cemented his reputation. Nobunaga, with a mere 2,000 men, faced the massive army of Imagawa Yoshimoto, a force 10 times his size. And yet, as a summer storm gathered on the horizon, Nobunaga didn't see a threat. He saw an opportunity in the chaos. Picture the scene: rain pouring down, turning the battlefield into a muddy swamp, thunder echoing like war drums across the hills. Nobunaga's men waited in perfect silence, hidden from view, as the storm reached its fiercest point, and the Imagawa army celebrated their seemingly inevitable victory. Feasting and drinking, Nobunaga gave the order. His soldiers charged a silent, deadly wave breaking from the dark. The enemy, completely caught off guard, fell within minutes. Imagawa Yoshimoto himself was slain. The tale spread across Japan like wildfire. A man of incredible vision had risen, a warlord who could outthink fate itself. Nobunaga was a true innovator. He brought new ways of war to Japan, famously embracing firearms, the Tanegashima muskets, introduced by the Portuguese. He organized his soldiers into firing lines, unleashing devastating volleys that could shred traditional samurai formations. He built castles of stone, not wood, and demanded a level of discipline so absolute that it was said even the wind obeyed his will. His motto was Tenkafubu, ruled a realm by force, and for a time, it seemed nothing could stop him. But for all his greatness, Nobunaga's flame burned too brightly, too intensely. Like the samurai heroes of old, he was bound by the same tragic truth that all things, no matter how powerful, must eventually fade. In the end, his downfall came not from an enemy on the battlefield, but from within his own circle. In 1582, a trusted general, Akechi Mitsuide, turned his sword against his master. Nobunaga was trapped in the Hanaji Temple in Kyoto. With no hope of escape, he performed seppuku, taking his own life. The temple burned to the ground, and his body was consumed by the flames, never to be found. But his vision, his dream of a unified Japan, was now alive in the minds of those who followed him. The fire crackles softly now, echoing that distant, tragic blaze. Listen. Can you hear it? The memory of that ferocious ambition, still whispering across the centuries. From Oda Nobunaga's ashes, a new leader rose Toyotame, Hideyoshi. And his story is perhaps even more remarkable. He was born not of noble blood, but of peasantry. A farmer's son who, through sheer wit, charisma, and unwavering loyalty, rose through the ranks to become the unifier of a fractured land. Hideyoshi had served Nobunaga with absolute devotion. He was the man who could build bridges in a single night, march armies across impossible terrain, and who offered his strategic genius to help fulfill his master's dream. When Nobunaga fell at Tsunage, Hideyoshi did not despair. He acted swiftly, defeated the traitor Akachi Mitsuhide, and took up his master's fallen banner, vowing to carry it farther than anyone thought possible. And he did, through a masterful blend of military conquest and shrewd diplomacy. Hideyoshi pacified the remaining rival clans. He built magnificent castles, like the Grand Osaka Castle, as symbols of his power and the newfound unity. He established order where chaos had reigned for 100 years. For the first time in a century, Japan began to breathe again. Imagine standing in one of those newly built castles, the massive stone walls gleaming under the morning dew, the air filled with the smell of fresh cedar wood. You'd see servants sweeping the courtyards, monks chanting blessings for peace, and children running freely through the castle towns without fear. That peace, fragile and golden, was Hideyoshi's gift to the nation. But like Nobunaga, Hideyoshi's ambition was boundless. He dreamed of more. His ambition reached beyond the shores of Japan, toward the mainland, toward Korea and China. But fate, ever patient, would humble him. His invasions of Korea faltered. His health began to wane. And like all men of great power, he too began to fade into legend. Yet even in his final days, Hideyoshi left behind a seed of lasting balance. He solidified the vision of a Japan united, not just by the sword, but by order, administration, and tradition. Under his rule, the samurai, once wandering blades for hire, began their transformation into stewards of peace. Their loyalty was no longer to endless war, but to structure, to service, and to building something greater than themselves. The story, however, was not over, for one last figure would rise from the mist. A man who would take everything Nobunaga began and Hideyoshi built, and shape it into an era of peace that would last for centuries. That man was Tokugawa. Yet, when the great unifier Toyotomi, Hideyoshi's light began to fade. Another man, a master of patience, stepped out from the shadows. His name was Tokugawa. His life had been a lesson in hardship. As a boy, he was passed between rival clans as a hostage, a mere pawn in their grand game of power. But these years of captivity forged something extraordinary within him. The discipline of a monk, the foresight of a sage, and the unshakable strength of a mountain. He had served Oda Nobunaga with unwavering faith, and stood by Hideyoshi's side with steadfast loyalty. Now, as they passed into history, he simply waited, as calm and focused as a hawk suspended in the sky, while others, driven by ambition, rushed headlong into conflict. Ieyasu observed, while others let their emotions dictate their actions, he let silence be his guide. His moment finally arrived at a place called Sakigahara, a battle that would not just decide a victor, but the very destiny of Japan for centuries to come. Imagine it. Dawn breaking over fields still soaked in morning mist. Tens of thousands of samurai, standing in silent formation, their lacquered armor forming dark silhouettes against the pale, rising light. The wind whispers across the valley, carrying the scents of damp earth and cold iron. Countless banners flutter in the breeze, each one a bold declaration of allegiance, each one about to be consecrated in the crucible of battle. And there, positioned on a hill overlooking the entire scene, sits Tokugawa Ieyasu. His expression is a mask, impossible to read, but his mind is already a whirlwind of strategy, playing out the battle 3 moves ahead of his rivals. When the signal is finally given, the valley erupts in a deafening thunder. The ground itself seems to tremble with the sheer weight of history being made. Cannons roar, arquebuses crackle, and the clash of steel on steel rings out as armies collide. But through all the chaos, all the sound and fury, Yasu remains composed. He guides his forces with the deliberate grace of a master calligrapher guiding their brush, every stroke precise, every motion imbued with purpose. When the storm of battle finally subsides, a thick smoke hangs over the fields, mingling with the mist. The air is heavy with the smell of turned earth and ash, and among the trampled, fallen banners of defeated clans, one emblem remains standing proud: the triple hollyhock crests of the Tokugawa. In that single moment of victory, a new era is born, the Edo period, an age of unprecedented peace that would endure for over 250 years. The swords that had once carved up the land were finally sheathed. The great castles, once grim fortresses of war, transformed into symbols of a new, centralized order. And the samurai, the very warriors who had defined an age of conflict, found their purpose shifting. No longer needed on the battlefield, they became something new. Custodians of tradition, paragons of discipline, and guardians of honor. Picture the streets of Edo, the sprawling city that would one day become modern Tokyo. Wooden houses with paper screens line narrow, bustling lanes. As dusk settles, paper lanterns are lit, casting soft, golden circles of light onto the ground. Merchants call out their wares from humble stalls, their voices a gentle hum in the evening air. You can hear the distant laughter of children playing, and somewhere, in a quiet house, a samurai sits by the warm glow of candlelight, meticulously copying ancient texts. His sword, the soul of the warrior, rests untouched beside him. The air is filled with the scent of fresh ink and cedar wood. Outside, a gentle rain begins to fall in delicate, silvery threads. Each drop is a quiet reminder that peace, just like conflict, has its own sacred power. In this new world of profound order, Bushido, the way of the warrior found its truest, most refined form. It was no longer simply a code for surviving battle. It became a comprehensive guide for living a virtuous life. Honor, integrity, compassion, and loyalty became the four pillars of a samurai's existence. A warrior's worth was no longer measured by the number of enemies they had slain, but by the strength of their character. They immersed themselves in art and culture, learning poetry, calligraphy, the intricate tea ceremony, and deep philosophy. Their swords, though now rarely drawn, were treated with a profound reverence, becoming symbols not of aggression, but of inner purity and self-control. The blade, polished until it shone like a sliver of moonlight, became a mirror reflection of the self, sharp, restrained, and silent in its strength. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine this scene. A samurai is kneeling on the tatami floor of his home. The only sound is the soft hiss of the oil lamp flickering nearby. He lifts his sword with immense care, not to prepare for a fight, but to clean it. Each movement is slow, deliberate, meditative, a ritual rhythm, older than memory itself. He breathes in deeply, and for a moment, the entire world feels perfectly still. This was the very heart of the Tokugawa peace. An entire nation held together not by the constant threat of fear, but by a shared, quiet discipline. Outside the walls of the samurai's home, the seasons turned with a gentle, predictable grace. Spring's cherry blossoms painted the landscape in fleeting shades of pink and white. Autumn's crimson leaves whispered of life's beautiful and in winter, a soft blanket of snow covered the temples and pagodas, turning even the largest cities into silent, tranquil sanctuaries. It was a golden age for culture. Artists thrived, creating the iconic woodblock prints we admire today. Philosophers and teachers spread their wisdom, and the common people found a deep and abiding joy in life. As simple pleasures, the subtle taste of freshly brewed tea, the gentle sound of rain on a roof, the mesmerizing play of light on water. Even the samurai, once feared as fierce warriors, became symbols of grace and restraint. Their voices softened, their movements became more deliberate, more mindful. They carried an aura of serenity as they once carried their gleaming steel. But time, like a river, never stops flowing. The incredible peace that Ieyasu had so painstakingly built would endure. Yet beneath its calm surface, the currents of change began to stir. The world beyond Japan's shores was growing restless. New ships, larger and faster than any seen before, were crossing the oceans. New nations were rising, and new ideas were drifting across the sea like seeds on the wind. And though the shoguns tried to close the gates, to insulate their nation from the outside world, the relentless tide of history cannot be held back forever. For now, though, let us stay here, together, in the warm glow of Ito's lanterns, and the quiet hush of a samurai's focused breath. Listen to the soft, rhythmic patter of rain on the rooftops. Feel the steady, calming rhythm of your own heartbeat. In this moment, you can share in the same profound peace they once knew, that perfect stillness between eras, the deep calm that comes just before a great awakening. The samurai's long journey from the chaos of war to the serenity of peace mirrors the journey we all seek. From the noise of the day to the quiet of the night, from tension to release, from our own daily battles to a moment of rest. You have followed their path, from the violent storms of conflict into the warm embrace of a lasting peace. And now, as our story comes to a close, perhaps you can feel the same truth that guided them. That true, lasting strength is not found in endless struggle, but in the wisdom of surrender. For over 200 years, Japan was a world unto itself. The Tokugawa shogunate had closed the gates, and behind them, a profound peace allowed the culture of the samurai to flourish, to be perfect. But even this stilliest pond is eventually stirred by the wind. In the mid-1800s, that wind arrived in the form of ships, dark, foreign shapes rising from the sea, their sails replaced by pillars of smoke, their cannons gleaming under the sun. They were called the Kudafunda Black Ships. Commodore Matthew Perry, an emissary from the United States, had arrived at Japan's shores with a message that was both a promise and a threat. The world had changed, and Japan could not remain asleep forever. Imagine the scene. Villagers standing on the beach, watching the smoke curl from those strange, monstrous vessels. Fishermen drop their nets in awe. Monks murmur prayers under their breath. And samurai stand at the ready, their hands resting on the hilts of swords that had not been drawn in generations. The air was thick with a silence heavier than any war drum. The shogunate had maintained peace through isolation. But now, the world demanded an answer. And so, slowly, hesitantly, Japan opened its doors. The winds of the world rushed in steam engines, telegraphs, foreign languages, and a flood of new ideas. For some, it was a dream of progress. For others, a nightmare of cultural erosion. The old order began to tremble. The samurai, once the unshakable pillars of the nation, found themselves standing on uncertain ground. Their swords, once symbols of honor and authority, were now seen as relics of a fading, bygone world. Amidst this turmoil, the emperor, long a figure of divinity and distance, stepped forward into power once more. And with his rise came the dawn of a new age, the Meiji Restoration. The year was 1868. A young emperor, radiant and determined, vowed to transform Japan to learn from the West while keeping the soul of the East alive. Factories rose where rice fields once shimmered in the sunlight. Railways crossed the land like veins of iron. Cities grew taller, faster, brighter. But this rebirth came at a cost, and many hearts grew heavy. The samurai, who had lived by the blade and the code of Bushido, were asked to lay them down. Their stipends, their source of income, were ended. Their privileges, their status, faded into memory, and their swords, once extensions of their very souls, were banned from being worn in the streets. Imagine that moment. A samurai standing beneath a cherry tree, its petals falling around him like snow. He holds his sword in both hands, feeling its weight, its history, its memory. The steel that had sung for his ancestors, that had defended his lord and his honor, would now be silent. The petals fall faster. He looks to the horizon where factories belch smoke and telegraph. Lines hum with messages in a new language, and he whispers a quiet farewell to a world that no longer needs him. Yet even in this profound loss, there was grace. The samurai spirit, the discipline, the courage, the unwavering devotion to honor did not die. It transformed. It found new vessels. Some former samurai became teachers, sharing their philosophy of discipline and integrity with the new generation. Others became leaders in the modern army, infusing the new military with the ancient code of Bushido. And some retreated into the countryside, becoming monks or poets, turning their swords into plows and their inner battles into prayers. The world around them changed at a dizzying pace, but within, they remained still, anchored by a code that transcended time. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine walking through a quiet village in that era. The air smells of rain on rich soil. Children, their laughter echoing, chase each other between traditional wooden houses. An old samurai sits by the riverbank, his hair now silver, his kimono simple and worn. He watches the water pass, a perfect reflection of time itself. Beside him, a young boy kneels, listening intently as the elder speaks, his voice as soft as the wind. The way of the warrior, he says, was never truly about the sword. It was about the soul. The boy nods, understanding something deep and important, and the old samurai smiles, for he knows that though the armor has vanished, the spirit endures. The Bushido, the way of the warrior, lives on, not in steel, but in every act of integrity, every choice made with courage, every breath taken with mindfulness. And as Japan charged into modernity, its trains running on schedule, its cities glowing with electrolight, the essence of the samurai became woven into the very fabric of its new identity. Their calm, their dignity, their appreciation for poetry and restraint remained like a powerful undercurrent beneath all the progress. Even now, when you walk through the bustling streets of modern Japan, you can feel it. You can see it in the precision of a master craftsman, in the deep respect of a simple bow, in the profound beauty of a garden arranged in perfect, meditative stillness. The samurai may have faded from sight, but their spirit hums quietly beneath everything, like the low, resonant drone of a temple bell that never truly stops ringing. The story of the samurai of honor, of change, of finding balance in a world turned upside down is not just a piece of history. It is a timeless reflection of the human condition. Our rise, our fall, our struggle for peace in a world of constant change. The samurai were gone, their armor stored in temples, their swords sleeping behind glass. But their spirit remained woven deep into the soul of Japan. In the new world that rose after the Meiji era, Japan became a place of wonder and paradox, a bridge between tradition and modernity, steel and silence, industry and grace. And through every transformation, you could still see the quiet echo of the samurai's hand. In the schools that taught discipline and respect, in the rituals that began and ended with a bow, in the art that prized precision and simplicity over excess. The way of Bushido, the path of the warrior, had become the path of the heart. Imagine a morning in modern Japan, the sun rising gently over tiled rooftops, steam drifting from a teacup. A shopkeeper opens his door and bows to the empty street, not for anyone watching, but because it feels a gesture of respect to the day itself. That quiet dignity, that mindfulness in every movement, is the living breath of the samurai. In martial arts dojos across the country, students kneel in rows before their masters. They bow deeply before beginning. The floor beneath them shines, polished from generations of feet. Each step, an act of humility. The strikes and stances they practice are no longer for war. They are for balance, for presence, for the stillness of the soul. Every motion has a purpose, every pause, a meaning. It is meditation through movement, the sword replaced by the spirit. When a student finishes a kata, the whole falls silent. You can hear only breathing soft, steady, synchronized. It is the same rhythm that has guided Japan for over 1,000 years. But Bushido was not just about combat or ceremony. It was about beauty kind, that hides in simplicity. You can see it in the clean lines of Japanese gardens, in the delicate folds of a kimono, in the way calligraphy flows like thought itself. The samurai understood something timeless, that to master the self is to find peace in the smallest details. The brushstroke, the footstep, the sip of tea. All are paths to harmony. In the tea houses of Kyoto, this spirit is still alive. Picture one now. A small wooden hut, surrounded by bamboo. Inside, the air smells faintly of roasted leaves and cedar. Tatami mats line the floor, and the soft sound of water fills the silence. A tea master kneels, moving with a grace that seems almost otherworldly. Every motion, the lifting of the pot, the turning of the bowl is deliberate. Guests watch, in silence. There is no need for words. The act itself is the poetry. The ceremony born from the philosophy of Zen and refined by samurai centuries ago teaches that perfection is found not in grandeur, but in attention, in the stillness between actions, in the humility of presence. And so the samurai live on, not as warriors of war, but as warriors of awareness. Even in the hum of modern cities, beneath the neon and noise, their quiet influence endures. The businessman who bows before a deal not to dominate, but to honor. The craftsman who spends years mastering a single technique. The calligrapher whose brush never trembles, though his hand has aged. They're all connected to that ancient lineage, those silent guardians of discipline and purpose. Their battlefields are no longer valleys and castles, but studios, kitchens, classrooms, and hearts. The sword has become the tool, the code, the conscience, the honor, the humility. As night deepens, imagine standing once more beneath a cherry blossom tree. It is spring. The petals fall like soft snow, each one a fleeting moment of beautia, whisper of life is impermanence. 1,000 years ago, a samurai might have stood there, his hand resting on his sword, watching those same petals drift down. He would have understood what they meant, that beauty is brief, and that to live honorably is to live fully in the moment before it fades. That understanding, that gentle acceptance, is the essence of Japan, and it is the heart of the samurai's gift to the world. You feel it even now in the way your breath slows, and the way stillness surrounds you. The lesson of Bushido whispers softly, do your best, be kind, live with grace, and when the moment passes, let it go. The fire before you is almost out. The last ember flickers and glows, like the final memory of a fading age, but the warmth remains. So does the light not outside, but within? Because the samurai's story, though ancient, has always been about the same journey from chaos to calm, from blade to breath, from noise to peace. And tonight, that journey is yours too. Let the warmth cradle you. Let your body grow weightless. Let your mind rest in quiet harmony, like the surface of a still pond beneath the moon. You have walked through centuries. You have seen rise and fall, war and peace, life and memory. The world is quiet now. Only the tender hum of night remains, the hush of the wind slipping through the trees, the faint song of a distant river, and the stillness that holds it all together. You are safe. You are calm. You are here. As your body softens into rest, our story drifts to its closing chaptura, dreamlike reflection on everything the samurai taught us about peace, purpose, and presence. Our story begins to fade where all journeys must, not with an ending, but with a return to stillness, to breath, to the quiet pulse that connects every living soul. Imagine a small village, nestled between mountains and the sea. An old man sits beneath a blossoming plum tree. His hair is white as the petals above him, and his hands, though weathered, move with practiced care as he carves something small from a piece of wood. Perhaps it's a flute, or a simple charm, or just a memory taking shape. He hums softly to himself, a song older than the language he speaks. Children pass by on the stone path, their laughter echoing as they bow to him. He smiles, but says nothing. The carving continues. You might realize that this old man was once a samurai, not a famous one, not a celebrated lord or hero, just a man who lived by a code one that taught him that strength is gentleness in disguise, and that true honor comes not from power, but from peace. His sword, long retired, hangs above the doorway of his humble home. Dust gathers on the sheath, but it doesn't matter. The steel no longer defines him. What matters now is the quiet rhythm of each Datha tending of his garden, the way he bows to the morning sun, and the gratitude he feels for every breath he takes. As you imagined him there, bathed in golden light beneath drifting petals. Feel yourself growing lighter. 2. Your muscles begin to soften. Your heartbeat slows to a gentle rhythm. Your thoughts float by like clouds in a vast, open sky. You can almost smell the faint sweetness of blossoms on the breeze. You can hear the cicadas begin their slow, summer song. You can feel the warmth of sunlight on your skin, even though you are resting, eyes closed, somewhere far away. This is the magic of stillness. Same peace that the samurai once sought after lifetimes of conflict. When they finally set down their weapons, they found that the truest victory was never in conquering others, but in mastering the self. And in that mastery, they found serenity. The old man pauses in his carving. He lifts his eyes toward the mountains, their peaks glowing soft pink in the fading light of day. He whispers a single word, perhaps a prayer, perhaps a memory end. Then he sets the carving beside him. It's a small figure of a warrior. But unlike most, this one is smiling. He smiles because he has learned that to live with purpose is to walk gently through the world, to leave no wounds behind, only kindness, only peace. The old man watches as a breeze stirs the petals around him. They swirl, they shimmer, and then they vanish into the air. He closes his eyes. He breathes. He feels no need to hold on. He understands that all things change, all things pass, and that is precisely what makes them beautiful. Now, imagine that same gentle wind reaching you. It moves softly across your face, through your hair, over your shoulders. It carries with it every story ever told of battles fought, of peace restored, of hearts that learned to let go. The wind whispers through the silence. Rest now. You have traveled far. You have seen the rise and fall of ages. You have carried the weight of history, and now it is time to lay it down, and so you do. You let go of tension. You let go of thought. You let go of everything but this breath, soft, steady, and endlessly flowing. The fire that once burned so bright in our story is now only a soft glow in the distance. But that light is not. Gonita has simply moved inward into your own calm heart. That is where the spirit of the samurai truly lives, not in armor, not in swords, but in the quiet courage to face each moment fully awake, fully aware, fully alive. As you drift deeper into this stillness, you realize something profound, that the way of the warrior and the way of peace are not opposites, but reflections of each other. Because to stand strong in gentleness, to move gracefully through struggle, to live honorably in a fleeting world, that is the truest mastery. That is the way. Now, take one last deep, slow breath. In through your nose, holding for a moment, and out through your mouth with a soft sigh. Feel the last threads of wakefulness slip gently away. You are surrounded by peace. You are wrapped in calm. You are resting beneath the same sky that watched over every samurai, every whispering leaf, every soft breath of history. And as your mind drifts into dream, the story folds itself around you, a lullaby of courage and calm, discipline and grace, honor and tranquility. The rise of the samurai was never just about war. It was about awakening a journey from chaos into peace. And now, you too have walked that path. You have reached the quiet heart of it all.